Hey everybody, welcome back to our episode of FSI DFS. I'm McRower31, and probably gonna have a quick video today because there's only 6 games on this slate for Monday, June 21st. So just gonna go game by game and we'll just break it down quickly. First game is Houston against Baltimore. Maybe a little bit of rain in this game, but I think it still plays. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Not on either pitcher, Jake Odorizzi or Keegan Aiken. Don't like either one of them, but really like the offenses here. And just to start off, I think they're my first favorite 2 stacks on this slate here. Um, Houston, still, you have some cheap guys in this lineup. I don't think they're going to have everybody back. So if McCormick's batting up in the second hole at like 3.1 against a lefty, you can definitely make a really nice stack with this Houston team, even if like Toro's still in there at 2-1. Lots of great options here. And then Baltimore was hot over the weekend. They hit a bunch of home runs. So I definitely like them against Odorizzi, who's kind of really struggled this year. The next game would be Oakland against the Texas Rangers. Frankie Montas is probably one of my favorite pitchers on the slate here. We don't have many options. He comes in at 9-4. He gets a Texas team that strikes out, and I think he's going to have a good game here. Kyle Gibson on the other side, I think, is usable. Oakland does have some strikeouts in this lineup. They're about, I think, at 24% K rate against right-handed pitching this year. So, even Olsen and some of the power bats can strike out at times. So Gibson, he has a long leash. He can usually get up to like 100 pitches or so, and that's not because he's a bad pitcher and he needs that much to get out of it. Um, but he's had some. Just played Houston, had 12.7 DK points. San Francisco's got a good offense, 15.9. Tampa Bay, 23. Looks like he's played Houston, San Francisco most of his games this year. But if you really need to go down quality starts, he has had a whole string of quality starts. It looks like he's only had 2 games this season where he hasn't got a quality start. So if you're playing him on FanDuel, that's definitely something to keep into consideration. Okay, so bat wise here, not really on Texas against Montas. Maybe if you need a cheap catcher, if Heim's in at 2-3, like that. Oakland, I think you can use as a secondary stack if you want to use them against Gibson. I like that. Cincinnati, not Cincinnati, Cleveland, the other Chicago team, and the Cubs. Wrigley Field looks like the wind's going to be blowing in pretty significantly here. So both these pitchers are playable. You have CV at 8.5 with the wind blowing in. The Cubs don't hit as well usually, so he's an option. And Alize comes back from the IL. He had a blister. He seems to be fine. So Cleveland really doesn't have too much pop to this lineup. There's times where they can go off, but with the wind blowing in, I think they're kind of like the Cubs. Like most of their power is going to be neutralized. Jose Ramirez is questionable, so if he's out of the lineup, that he's the key bat there. So definitely, I think Alize would be my second or third favorite pitcher on the slate, depending on if this weather holds the wind blowing in with Ramirez in the lineup or not. Bat wise, really not too excited. I think it's going to be a pitching duel here. So I'd favor the Cubs over Cleveland. GPP, I mean, you can play anything on this slate. It's such a small slate, but I think I'm staying out of the situation bat wise. Cincinnati Reds against Minnesota Twins. Tyler Miley would probably be my second favorite one on the slate. I think I'm going to go a lot of Montas Miley. If I'm not going Montage, Alize, I think I'm going to play combinations of the 3 of those pitchers. I think that's definitely where I'm going for pitching on the slate. You're going to have to pay up a little bit. So Montas 9-4, Alize 8-9, and Molly 9-8, but I think they're definitely worth it for the builds. J. Happ on the other side, no way. Cincinnati is probably my second favorite stack, so it'd be Houston, Cincinnati, Baltimore. looking at stacks here. Molly also might benefit against this twin lineup. Yes, Buxton's back from injury, just getting back in the swing of things there. But Donaldson and Cruz are both questionable. If they're definitely both out of this lineup, that just makes Molly such a better play. And Hap has struggled, so India is up to 5K, which is just like, he was so reasonably priced over the weekend. I think that's just ridiculous. It's almost like Cincinnati ended up in Coors Field, except for Castellanos, who's 4-5. I don't get it. But if you're stacking this, I guess you're kind of really the average of India and Castellanos is pretty much where they should be. So I'm fine with that. Some cheap bats down at the bottom here. Righties against this lefty Hap. So definitely a stack that can work. Next game, we have the Brewers and the Diamondbacks. I don't like either pitcher here, but Merrill Kelly, if you want somebody that's a little bit cheaper, I'd probably go Gibson at 6.3 and save like 1K there. But Kelly in a tournament, I think is okay. Milwaukee has struggled at times. Brett Anderson, definitely not. These are a Milwaukee stack I can definitely see playing. They're pretty cheap. In Arizona, like I said the other day, they've lost 17 straight. I'm going to continue to stack them because one of these days everything's going to come together and nobody's going to be on them, and it's going to take down a tournament. So I've committed to pay $1 on them every single day. Hasn't done anything for me yet, but we'll see. I still got 5 days to go. Let's see if we can make something big happen with the Arizona stack. The final game is another pitcher's duel. You got probably two of the best teams on the slate, and the Dodgers and the Padres. This could be the NL West, or it could be the NL pennant game here, the championship series for the league. So you have Urias against Darvish. Urias, it would be GPP. He's been a good pitcher, but the last 3 games, he's not been great. He's given up 14 runs over the last 5. So he's okay. He's got the talent there, but Dodgers have good bullpen. So if he struggles, I think he gets pulled and they bring in the bullpen, because this could be a key division game to decide, who takes this division. So, they don't want to end up where it's a tiebreaker scenario where they go head to heads and, and lose it here. So these games are very important. Yu Darvish is on the other side. I think he'd be my 4th favorite pitcher on the slate here. He's really good pitcher. The Dodgers are still banged up. Maybe by the end of the week they'll be back to full strength, but if they still have guys out here, then Darvish is pretty much matchup proof. So 10-2 is kind of steep to pay. I think, Montas can get there about the same in a better matchup at 9-4, Alze, Male. So I think Darvish will have some ownership just based on his name, but I don't think he's the pitcher on the slate. But then again, you know what? Dodgers have a 3.13 total. I think that's one of the lowest ones on the slate here. So he's definitely playable. I just think the way I'm looking to build, I'm not going to be using him today unless I'm playing like a late slate or something like that. Bat-wise, San Diego, I could make a case for against Urias. The Dodgers against Darvish, I mean, that would definitely be a YOLO GPP. Again, 6-game slate, anything can happen. I'm sure there's people out there in the 150 who are going to stack every single team. So if you are doing like the 20 max or 3 max or something like that, because if you're trying the 150, then you're not really being cute or contrarian, because I'm sure some computer algorithm that some of these players have already figured that out and have them stacked every single way. So that pretty much is the run through of the games. Let's look at a couple roster constructions. So like I said, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Male and Montas. I think those two are the best. Alize definitely works, but if I play those two and play a catcher in like the 2 5 range or so. That gives me 4K left per batter. And pretty much I'm just going to stack Houston and Baltimore here. There's a stack that works out. For Houston, my priorities are going to be Altuve, Brantley, McCormick. For Baltimore, my priorities are going to be Mullins, Brantley, and Mancini. And then if you look at the roster, you can kind of figure out what fits in the other spots at, I believe we have catcher, third base left in that that breakdown there. So you could use either catcher from this team also, and then you just have to figure out third base from there. So I think that's going to be my first build, but if for some reason there is rain and this game is rained out, then I think I'd stack the Reds. So in that case, I'd take Male just because of the correlation. If the Reds stack goes off, then you obviously want the pitcher because he's probably going to get the win. And then I'd take Alize there just to give me a little bit more money. There, I could take Heim against Oakland as my catcher. And then that opens up enough salary for me to get Stevenson, India, Castellanos, and Winker. Even though Winker's lefty and lefty, I think he's still fine there. And then that leaves you 3 spaces to fill in. You can decide if you want to take one of the cheaper Reds down in the lineup and try to use them to finish off your 5-man stack, but I'm okay just going those 4 and then filling in. So that pretty much wraps up the slate. There's one more thing that I just wanted to cover. A couple of videos this season I've been talking about how back in like 16 or 17, I started doing a thing where I was stacking a team every single day and two teams, and sometimes I'd have to play the all-day slate. It's harder on DK because they don't have it. FanDuel works out really nice. And it was back to the point where FanDuel actually had the catcher, not a utility. So that's how long ago this, I can't remember what year that stopped, but that year I selected, I played every single slate that these two were on. Sometimes, like I said, I had to play the all day. I took Cleveland and the Angels. So the year Mike Trout was out and Cameron Maybin was like leading off, and it just worked out so well that by the end of the year, I had profited a couple $1,000. And I was just playing in the like $1 GPPs. I wasn't playing like any high dollars or cash or anything. I was just throwing a buck on it every single day, and it took down a tournament like 3 or 4 times. And I think I finally settled on what I like for this year. I know it took me a couple months to figure out and get into it, but my stacks going forward that I'm going to be playing, and it's not Arizona, is San Francisco and Boston. And just an example, yesterday I had to play on the all-game day slate, and I had to do it on FanDuel because I couldn't do it on DK because they don't have an all-day slate usually. But I really like the flexibility, and I'm going to be doing this going forward. And yesterday I came in second in a tournament. I had to pay $3 because there wasn't a dollar one that I could find. That wasn't like, there was actually a money tournament. They had ones for like qualifiers and stuff like that. But I like to, you know, especially on FanDuel, but on even on DK, like a catcher, like you have a decent one potentially to play there with San Francisco and Posey. FanDuel, it's even more flexibility, but like you have Belt there. If you need to go low, you have like Dahlback. You can play Posey, you can play Vasquez if the catcher there. Second base, Kiki Hernandez, he did great yesterday. He had 31 points. Marlon Gonzalez sometimes lead off there. Arroyo sometimes leads off there for Boston. Solano. So there's about 4 options that you can use there for the stack. Third base, like Devers usually is who I use, but when Longoria comes back, he's an option for San Francisco. Shortstop, you have Xander and Crawford, both having great years. Crawford had another home run yesterday, so that really helped my stack. In the outfield, I usually use JD, Yastrzemski, and then like Wade or Trotman or whoever Slater is leading off for San Francisco. But you also have the flexibility to use Verdugo there, Renfroe for I think Marlon Gonzalez sometimes has outfield eligibility too. So there's just so many options that you can usually fit in a stack on both FanDuel and DK for this. And yesterday they scored 180 points. Ryu fit in as a pitcher, so it was a decent pitcher. And, you know, I'm going to be continuing to do this going forward, and I'll just continue to report my progress. So something to consider. Can't do it today because the teams aren't playing, but tomorrow's slate, it'll work. So thanks for watching. Give us a like. Leave a comment below. We'll get back to you and try to help you out with your questions, or hit me up at MegaRuler31. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.